the world to lift the blockade of Port Arthur. But after many misadventures on the way,
Mm.
it was nearly annihilated by the Japanese in the Battle of the Zuma Strait. And you know how they did it? So the
Not
Russian fleet gets there at night. They were like, we're
okay.
going to sneak in and we're going to bombard the Japanese. But some stupid sailor had left a light on and a window open on one of the ships entering the Port Arthur, and the Japanese saw it. It was like, there they are, and started to shell the shit out of them. Now, yeah, they decimated the Russian fleet. They
Right.
decimated it. And it was a surprise to not only the Russians, but all of Europe. It was a surprise. And
Right.
this is going on at the same time as the Russian Imperial Army is not doing that bad against the Japanese army,
Mm.
but they're having logistical problems while commands and supplies came from St. Petersburg. Combat took place in East Asian ports with only the Trans Siberian Railroad to transport all the supplies as well as the troops needed there as well.
Right.
9,200 kilomiles, which is 5,700 miles, of rail line between St. Petersburg and Port Arthur for a single track with no track around the Lake uh, Baskell, allowing only gradual buildup of forces on the front. The besieged Port Arthur fell to the Japanese after 9 months of resistance. As Russia faced imminent defeat by the Japanese, the call for peace grew. Nicholas' mother, as well as his cousin Emperor Wilhelm II, urged Nicholas to negotiate for peace. Despite the efforts, Nicholas remained evasive, sending a telegram to the Kaiser in October that it was his intent to keep fighting until the Japanese were driven from Manchuria. It was not until May of 1905 and annihilation of the Russian fleet by the Japanese that Nicholas finally decided to sue for peace.
Okay.
Nicholas accepted the American mediation led by, well, help negotiate it by then American President Theodore Roosevelt, appointing Sergei White chief mediator, chief their representative in the peace talks. The war was ended by the signing of the Treaty of
Mm.
Portsmouth, which also got Theodore Roosevelt the Nobel Prize. Your
Huh.
thoughts on that?
You got Theodore Roosevelt the Nobel Prize. Well, and that's that. That should give that should give folks a indication on these things that are valued so much, all these things that are valued so much, and how they're given and why they're given and what they justify and all that stuff. I mean, what it sounds like to me is that so many people's lives were sacrificed so folks can maintain this status, folks can maintain this power, um, which is which is how these folks got into the situation they got into. You can only do that stuff for so long. You can only affect people for so long in this way, over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. And
And it
also, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, you had
Now, and also coming to the fact that you start a war which they try to not get into, the Japanese try to not get into, and then they annihilate you. This reverberated
yeah,
all across the world
for sure.
because again, the West had thought the Japanese were this primitive army, and they
Right.
pretty much destroyed one of the largest European fleets in the
Hmm.
world.
Yep. And I think it says something, right? It's and especially the Japanese army. It's always said the same thing. When people are just overtly dedicated, when they're overtly dedicated to not just the cause but their leadership, hell, they're going to the end. And so when leadership loses faith, um, they're going somewhere. Also to an end, not a similar end, a painful end, an unfortunate end. But it just really talks about the faith of, I mean, really the faith of the working class, really, of any country, right? When you win that faith, it's amazing how people will it's amazing how people will sacrifice for themselves and defense of their leaders. But when you lose it, woo,
Yeah.
trouble.
And not even the like prop up the Japanese at this time, because the Japanese then and even now to this day has a Hey, this is RedNick coming back at you. Yeah, this episode is just way too long. I mean, it's already at an hour, and the second part is over almost an hour and a half. So we're gonna cut this part right here. I do sorry about cutting it mid sentence, because the recording equipment stopped recording, and then we pick it up like a minute later. So we're going to debut part 2 tomorrow. So keep your eyes open and peel for part 2 tomorrow. So yeah, part 2 will come out tomorrow. Till then, y'all stay weird, because being weird is really cool. We'll see y'all tomorrow.